I'm a pretty type A kind of guy. I like making to-do lists for my to-do lists. I like winning arguments I didn't even know I started. I like planning vacations 6 months in advance, down to the meal. I do this because, I'm trying to get a house, increase my income, that kind of stuff. I'm 22 this year, fresh into my 20s. But I'm afraid that 10 years down the line, I might look back and have no experiences to show for it. And when I talk to my friends about this, they all tell me the same thing. It's not my first time in Japan, and it's not hers either. But the difference is that for today, tomorrow, and the day after that, there's no plan. If you've never been to Japan, let me break it down for you. The food, it's like nothing you've ever tasted. The city, a neon maze, alive and buzzing at every hour. And the crowds, shoulder to shoulder, especially this time of year. Tokyo is a treasure chest for the curious. Take Akihabara, for instance. On a street lined with flashing lights and endless shops, I stumbled across a little stand. They were selling second-hand digicams and camcorders, relics of another time. They weren't exactly my style, but it definitely piqued my interest. We spent a couple of days in the various districts of Tokyo, checking out gachas, taking wrong turns, and letting the streets lead us instead of the other way around. That's how I ended up in this shop. Kitamura, a camera store. Not just any camera store, this place had everything. Digital, analog, vintage, you name it, they had it. And then I saw it. A film camera sitting there like it was waiting for me. It wasn't shiny or new. It had a few scratches on the lens, a couple of dents on the body, but that's what caught my eye. You know what's the best way to preserve a moment? A photo album. The real one, the kind with plastic sleeves, where the pictures stick a little when you try and pull them out. That's the thing about film photography. Every shot is permanent, like a memory. No do-overs, no second chances. You won't even know what you've got until it comes back from the lab weeks later. But funny enough, that's what made it feel so freeing. I didn't need to stress about getting the perfect shot. I wasn't chasing perfection. I was just capturing the moment, knowing one day I'd flip through those photos and my memory would fill in the rest. One of those memories was Kamakura, a small city by the ocean, home to the great Buddha. He looked timeless, sitting there with this calm, knowing expression like he'd seen it all and wasn't impressed by any of it. Touristy spots like this have a way of showing you just how many people are glued to their phones, head down, perfectly posed, so focused on capturing the shot for their socials. And I couldn't help but wonder, how many of them actually go back and look at those photos again? As the year came to a close, a friend took us to a hidden spot tucked away south of Chiba. He'd been working in Japan for months, living on his own, taking life one step at a time. His daily life was simple, but he seemed to enjoy it, like he'd found a rhythm that worked for him. The two of us share a lot of the same interests, but we couldn't be more different. He'd drive 300 kilometers on a whim, chasing nothing more than a view or a feeling. Me, I'd never even consider something like that. Watching the first sunset of 2025, it wasn't the kind of thing I'd ever planned for myself, but standing there, watching the sky slowly fade into darkness, I realized that was the part of me I wanted to change. And maybe, in that moment, I could feel it happening. Once the new year rolled in, we were set off for Nagano. I've always had a thing for snow, ever since I was a kid. When my family was immigrating to Australia, my parents told me it had plenty of snow. I guess they figured it was the easiest way to get me on board. Of course, they were lying. But here, in Nagano, the snow is everything I imagined back then. Pristine, untouched, blanketing the world in a kind of quiet you can't find anywhere else. I honestly don't think I'd have seen anything so breathtaking in my life. This is the Togokushi Inner Shrine, famously lined with towering cedar trees, each one older than entire lifetimes. Walking through them, you can't help but feel small. They're a reminder that some things endure, no matter what. Coming to the end of this trip, I finally tried something I'd been putting off for years: skiing. You know, the funny story is we actually fell asleep on the bus and missed the stop to the mountain we were supposed to go. Where did we end up? The Nagano Winter Olympics mountain. Of course, I didn't know this at the time, so I was all excited with my ski gear like an idiot and took the lift up to the peak, 2,000 meters above the ground. The only way down? To ski. I fell my way down the mountain that day, with one time falling 20 meters straight and hitting the back of my head. I didn't think I'd need a helmet, but thankfully the Japanese snow is so soft. Now, as I close this chapter, flipping through the memories, Kamakura, Togokushi, the mountain I wasn't supposed to be on, none of it had even been part of the plan. And maybe that's what made it all so unforgettable. 10 years from now, I might not remember every detail of this trip, but I'll remember how it felt, and maybe that's enough.